Hello.
Morning. How's it going?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Tore. Do you know if William is around?
I think he's been pretty busy because he was at the what is this famous event from Side Foundation from the CNCF? Anyway, I think he might be a bit busy.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we can start, I guess. And if anybody joins,
Yep.
catch up. Let me share my screen. All right. So, let's recap. Let's see what we did last week. And then I want us to go back into the roadmap and check the current status of things for 4.1. We have quite some stories open here, but I think some of them can be closed, maybe. So let's have a look first at the done column. Homepage feedback. This is closed. We discussed it. We do have a new homepage.
Yep.
This one. So yeah, if anybody has comments on this from community, please let us know. And I think this also links to where's the, what do we call it?
Kairos Lab, or
Yeah, the Kairos Lab.
at the top, the first sentence says Kairos Lab, and download after download. Yeah,
Here.
this one. Yeah.
So when you click on that, it takes you to this repository. Mauro, maybe you want to introduce this? I don't think we introduced this before.
Good observation. I don't know if we did it, but yeah, basically, it's going to simplify getting started with Kairos, because many times we've seen that users are not familiar with a virtualization system. So instead of having to install, I don't know, VirtualBox and or UTM or whatever, depending on the platform that you're running on. This one tries to give you a simplified, minimal CLI version of a hypervisor, whatever you need based on Chemo. And then you can spin up a machine and it keeps track of your different experiments that you're doing with Kairos.
Mhm.
So you can download different ISOs, you can name your machines differently there. It's obviously not meant to replace something big like UTM or VirtualBox or any other virtualization software. It's just to get started and play around with Kairos.
Mhm. Mhm. Nice. Um, but we do have the options here on how to install it, and it's all in the docs. We're just trying to simplify the first time for people that don't want to struggle with everything when they first try out Kairos. We're trying to simplify that.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, that's about the homepage. Let me go back. Configuration fields, we merged it. It was open for a while. Now merged, we closed this parent. There was another one that fixes it. Um, Oracle Linux, there is still one under review, but I think this concludes it. I think it was missing the Kairos in it. So with this pull request now merged, I think maybe we can close this as well.
Nice.
AuroraBoot template delimiter, there was a mistake in the docs. We were mentioning 2 square brackets, and I think the templating requires 3 square brackets. Someone noticed and they contributed a fix here, so thank you. Nothing changes, it's just documentation. Um, Cars you need fix, detached loop before trying to mount. I guess that was a bug. Not always happening, maybe. What does anybody remember? I think it's related to some bug, some open bug. Automatic fallback to entries. So the bug was that after an upgrade, if it failed, you weren't booting automatically the passive one. Is that correct? Tore,
Oh, interesting.
you fix it. We can't hear you, Tore, if you're talking.
Yes, wait. Yeah. It's basically it's fixed. So the problem was like that. There was no detaching before loading the sessions. So the problem, you wouldn't actually face the issue usually, because when you're trying and fails, the first thing that instinctively you do is rebooting the machine. So when you reboot it, it then selects correctly fallback and then it boots. So, but if you let it wait, you will notice that when it started to go to loop into each entry, it
Tore,
was
are you
failing
there?
because the mount loop was still a mount. Can you hear me?
Sorry. Yeah, it was my side. I think I disconnected for a sec. Yeah.
No. It happened here as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, when did this start happening? Who should upgrade to? Well, I mean, there's nothing to upgrade yet to, right? There's no release with this fix. So it affects which versions, do we know?
Basically all of them, all of the Kairos versions, because this was there since the beginning of time. There is no actual regression here.
The thing with this is this is a very specific thing that it only happens if you got a proper image file, but the contents of the image are broken. So it loads the image, so the load setup can load the image correctly, but then when it tries to do whatever with it, it won't it won't find the kernel, it won't find the init RD, so it fails, but it doesn't unmount the loop. So it's a very specific way of hitting it. Like it's almost like you have to try to make it like that, or have a wrong image, I guess. When you upgrade.
Yeah, for me it was because I was testing and I was having Kairos Agent version with the container registry library, which had a bug on symlinks. So the images had like 2/3
I
of the
didn't have
symlink.
init RD or something like that. No, the symlink was not in there.
Yes, it missed the FM Linux symlink. So that one was breaking the init FS, and then basically couldn't, start anything.
Okay.
And that's the specific case that triggered it for me.
Okay, it doesn't make much sense to backport it to every version then.
No, it's not even
Selecting all the
possible.
versions.
It's not even possible because this file, the GRUB CFG file, doesn't even get into the upgrade because it could. So this one is a manual thing that the user have to do on all the installation and have to upgrade the GRUB CFG, since it's a very sensible part of the stack and doesn't change. Typically, it was never part of the upgrades also because actually for reliability, because it's something that never changes and we don't want to break systems. So in the worst case, it's really, safe to do this upgrade because it's really a one line before every boot entry. This is how it is. So it should be patched manually if somebody have this kind of issues. Yeah, that's it. So it's really
Normally,
easy to
this
do
file
mechanically.
ends up in the reliable part of the system. So if someone has a system, they want to fix it, where do they find this file?
It should be or in the state partition, and I think we moved it recently in the recovery one. So in one of the two parts, you will have a GRUB CFG file, and there you need to.
You need to add this line. Okay. All right, good to know. Maybe we can even put it in the release notes when we release.
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
And by the way, this is only GRUB, so no trusted boot, just for GRUB.
Yeah. Move configuration home page to Kairos factory page. So if I go to Kairos IO,
But in the end, we
oh,
decided to do this differently. Yeah,
right.
we have something internal, so it's not out yet, but it will be much better than having it on the docs.
Okay, there's nothing to show then. So we're gonna have
Yeah.
something soon.
Yeah.
But maybe yeah, or in the end of this call, maybe introduce us to that. Exposing keys package. So this is preparation for what I just said. So Toro built something like a UI to help people provision their first clusters. So this is a preparation exposing some commands from AuroraBoot to be reused. And I think this is the same for the same reason, exposing some internal commands of AuroraBoot. Let me archive them all. Okay. Oracle Linux. Does anybody know if there's anything left, or I can just close this one? Wait.
Good question.
Left in Kairos init, which we merged. Yes, this one is merged.
Yeah, I would say we can close, and if there's something they can reopen or mention it. It's very cool.
Yeah, from here on we can treat it as bugs if something is not there.
Yeah.
Investigate copy. We investigated. I think we wanted to close this one last week, and we were waiting for the end-to-end test suite to be merged, and that was merged. Yep, I'm gonna close it, and William can reopen it if he wants. We're done with the first round. So there is a test that tests this end-to-end, creates a cluster, installs all components, and creates a workload cluster and connects to it. So anything you would do manually to see if it's working, it's already happening automatically in the CI. Support confidential computing workloads. This has been there for a while because we're waiting for feedback. It's mostly internal, I would say. So we have a user that's testing it. So I will just leave it there, or we can actually close it. I think we had documentation, Mauro, which I put here, and we wanted to put that in our official docs. Have we done that? I think I sent you. So I tried that out, and I sent you.
Yeah, I thought it was the internal docs. So
Okay. So there I can close it. I don't know. So the documentation part of the other one.
Yeah, I would say from the public side you can close it.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So I'm closing this, and I'm closing this, and we can archive this. Nothing's happening. Okay, so this is done, nothing under review anymore. At last. So there are some things in progress. This is new. I don't recall seeing it. Kairos says, okay, before. No, let's do this one, and then we'll talk about roadmap. So this one is a bug about boot entry select, which is broken on older systemd versions. This is not really old, 257. Probably the previous one, I guess. All the previous ones.
So this ended up not being that. this is a very confusing one because it took a long time. The aim is to the boot entry selection kind of error with the upgrade error and a lot of things error. So this is the same issue that we had before with systemd, in which they change the identification of
the suffix with the
the
numbers and the retries.
entries. Yes, in which they, during a stable, they change to add and then remove the number of boot entries left and so on, the boot assessment, and they broke boot assessment and they didn't fix it, just they did a workaround. So yeah, not much that we can do, especially because if you want the latest Kairos agent, then you have to get also the latest AuroraBoot, which ships the proper systemd boot. It was advised to them to either just bump AuroraBoot to latest or downgrade init to an older one that doesn't have the workaround for this. There is no proper solution for this other than that have the sync artifacts, let's say.
Okay, so latest tooling from Kairos is consistent with each other, all the tools. They create proper files named properly and everything works. It's just a mess if you try to upgrade the agent but still use an old AuroraBoot. Is that correct?
Yeah, because AuroraBoot is the one that bundles systemd boot. And that is an important part of the equation. If you have a Kairos agent that expects a newer AuroraBoot, a newer systemd boot, and build it with an old one, yeah, you're gonna have a bad time.
And upgrading
the
to the
idea
latest
here
Kairos is not affected either, right? If you just upgrade to our release, it's still working. It's no problem. It's just if you build your own artifacts with an old AuroraBoot,
yes,
bumping just the agent
yes.
is the problem. Okay.
Okay. So the idea here is one ship systemd with init, so they have the versions are in sync, and two, maybe make agent a bit more intelligent during the checks, and if we find out an older systemd boot, try to work around that somehow. But it was such a mess that I'm worried that if we fix the boot entry, then we break boot assessment on older ones, and I'd rather have it somebody have to choose manually the entry rather than having a boot loop if an entry is broken.
Yeah.
So yeah, I will work on that and see if it's safe to go back to the previous workflow if we have an older systemd without breaking the whole boot assessment stuff.
So agent, specific Kairos agent requires a recent enough systemd version. That's what we have here, right?
There is also a really nice big problem, and that is the broken commit is in a patch release. So it's 256. I think it's between 0.5 and 0.7 where it breaks. So it's not as simple as in before this, after this. It's just have to go and search where they introduced that change exactly and which point release is affected. It's just such a pain in the ass.
The only thing I'm thinking is that for people that build their own artifacts, how do they start actually? Let's say someone's our pipeline. Our pipeline would be pulling the latest AuroraBoot, so fine. But if they are directly consuming the Docker file from Kairos, there is no indication that using an older AuroraBoot is going to break it. So the requirement of the specific AuroraBoot or systemd is
Yeah,
not.
indeed. So that's why Kairos Agent also needs to account for that, because we can't control what AuroraBoot they're going to be using. In fact, if I remember correctly, the ones that reported this were using Enki still. So that is really, really old. So yeah, Kairos Agent needs to work around this in case we find an older system. There is no other
Can we
way
bake in
around
a
that.
requirement in Kairos Agent, like a validation step? And if the Kairos Agent detects an incompatible systemd version, maybe it can error out even at the build time.
That's on the init part, I guess. But then we have to maintain a compatibility list. That's why I thought it was maybe simpler to just ship systemd, the latest systemd in init. So we know that what we ship as a bundle in init. So when you get the agent, you also get the systemd version. And then on Aurora, we can just allow to override or fall back to the whatever systemd Aurora ships.
Mm-hmm.
So
Actually, that's
don't
true.
force anything.
Why not do that? Kairos Agent is already installing various dependencies. Why would we leave this to Aurora?
Because there was no point, right? It was not necessary for us to ship that, and on Aurora side, it was necessary to know which version, because it's where we create the config files, and config files do change over time. So we needed to know on Aurora which version we were shipping to add this key or that key when creating the configs and the loader config and things like that. So now we need it on both sides.
Can I say something bold, like a suggestion? So at this point, there are certain responsibilities AuroraBoot and Kairos in it. Kairos in it already accepts the model, the architecture, things like that to make decisions. So it has all the information it needs. It even knows you're preparing, for example, let's say Raspberry Pi image. So anything AuroraBoot is doing is based on the very same information. So Kairos Init has all the information AuroraBoot has, so it can put all the configuration in place because it knows what you're building. The only thing it doesn't know is what kind of artifact you'll want in the end, if it's a raw image, an ISO, or netbook artifact. So what if we move all the responsibility of putting the right files in place to Kairos Init, which is partly doing already, and we let AuroraBoot be just, an artifact producing tool, moving between ISOs to raw images and whatever, but doesn't need to put anything in the image itself. If I recall correctly, it also does some GRUB things, like it pulls GRUB config AuroraBoot, which has also created some bugs every now and then.
Well, if we ship systemd boot within it, then then we will get that. So only the artifacts that Aurora puts is just the ones that it needs to build the artifact. So if you need an ISO, it will just put a group that chain loads into the actual image stuff. And if you put UKI, then it will just create the loader, although those end up in the machine. It just there is not a clear line in there on the responsibility, especially for UKI, because UKI, whatever you get on the ISO, is the exact same thing that you're gonna get on disk, right? It's just some loader configs and some keys, and we change that stuff during install to adapt it to whatever you are installing, but it's kind of like the same. I don't know.
Okay. Okay, yeah, we don't have to decide now, just throwing ideas out. So you are gonna try to fix it, but if not, it's gonna end up I don't know, maybe nothing actually. It's already working. So if you can't find an easy and clear clear way to fix it for older versions. People just have to know that they have to use latest Aurora with the latest Kairos agent. Maybe we can throw that in the Kairos agent release notes. We do have releases of that, so in the specific agent where this requirement is introduced, we can put a note there and say, yeah, you need at least AuroraBoot version this or that, right?
Yeah. I think yes, making the workaround on the agent is the easiest way to not pass the burden, because we can do, yeah, we can say, oh yeah, you need AuroraBoot, whatever, but there is no way of enforcing that, right? And there is not a good way
Nobody's gonna
for
see
someone,
that in the release notes.
yeah, to see that properly and think, oh yeah, now I have to change my pipeline for a newer version and so on. So and we should try to fix it as far as we can on agent, and then work around about that.
Makes sense. All right, next one. This one I tried to have a look. Actually, I was asking Claude about ideas, and then came up with. So I tried to reproduce at first. I couldn't. So I was guessing things.
The stupid RPI. What's with that?
Is that the Raspberry? No, that's not the Raspberry Pi. That's.
That's a different thing.
Yeah, the cost persistent not mounting. But there is no report back from Nyanyu on how we can reproduce it. So I'm not sure. Maybe we can close it or just leave it there under review. Maybe there isn't much we can do if we cannot reproduce it. Only guesswork.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna leave it for another week under review. But if we don't get a reply, I think we should start closing these tickets. If the reporter doesn't report back, it means it's no longer a problem, right?
Not for us.
This is the This is the Raspberry Pi ticket. This was a very slow one to debug because the bug is with the SD card, so there's no way around flashing the SD card. You have to actually flash it and see if it sees the SD card. That's the bug. I tried various things. My verdict in the end is that somehow the DTBs, the device tree, is not being seen, although it's somewhere there in the SD card. And according to Claude, at least because I'm not very familiar with it, maybe the other distros have a patched GRUB something, so it sees the B. So what is the thing we use, the Ubuntu doesn't see it where it is or something like that. So in the end, what you get, if you get a Dracut console, there is no SD card. It doesn't recognize any disk. So yeah, it's a driver issue. That's why you cannot reproduce it with generic ARM and QEMU and such. It only happens on the actual device. But yeah, I hit the limit of what to do. I didn't have any more ideas. So if someone has an idea on how to debug this further, please go ahead, because every try takes too long, and unless I have a good insight on what to try next, I'm just trying random things there. So I think I'm gonna remove my face from this one, and actually I'm gonna move it back here. I'm not even sure how urgent this is for us. It's a Raspberry Pi. For us, it's just a test device, but I know we have people that use it in the community, so it would be nice if we fixed it. So next one, maybe Ichaka or Maru, you want to talk about it? We tried to compile everything for RISC-V to see if we can get support for it. And turns out we can compile all our binaries and build the Hadron image for it. But does it work?
That's the question. We still have to polish some things, but we have version booting on emulated QEMU. So it looks very promising, I would say. There are still artifacts from our side that need to understand RISC-V that we haven't finished yet, like AuroraBoot, right? Mainly to be able to produce RISC-V artifacts on other architectures. And also we haven't tested this on real hardware. So the components are being built on the CI pipeline, which is RISC-V hardware, but we haven't really tried to boot yet. I don't know how that will look. I still don't understand what the traditional booting on a RISC-V device looks like, whether it's more like ARM devices and everyone different, or is there a generic version of it? I still need to figure that out. So there's still quite some work, but it looks very promising, I would say, to already see. It's exciting to see RISC-V, Hadron, Kairos in when you log in, in a session.
Yeah, really nice. Maybe it's time to ask your community if anybody has interest in RISC-V and they have devices. It's a good time for a brave soul to try that out and tell us what's missing and what's breaking.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'll put it out maybe in a discussion or something like that in GitHub. Yeah.
No, nice. Good job. But does that mean I can put it under review or done? Are we planning to do anything more on it right now?
I just need to polish at least
Mhm.
because it didn't boot automatically. I had to find the EFI file manually. So as soon as that is fixed, I would say the spike would be finished. Yeah.
Nice. And we're going to
Oh, yeah, I
produce the
probably
artifact.
need.
Sure.
Chaka?
Sorry, I was just thinking out loud that probably needs just a different boot fallback name. I don't even remember if the API standard allows or takes account of this architecture. I think it only takes of Arch and x86.
Maybe that's the problem that I'm having. Maybe it really needs to go always under Ubuntu. But that's the other thing. I don't know. I haven't even checked how much support there is on Ubuntu. I believe it's already, there's RISC-V version, but I don't know.
Okay. And do we produce artifacts for RISC-V in any pipeline, pull requests or main or releases? Or are we planning to? Even the emulated ones, the ones that work in the emulator.
Yeah,
If you want to
at
try
least
that out, I mean.
Hadron is now on main. And I guess as soon as we do a release, it will be also there. But maybe we should actually check and not produce RISC-V official.
I would say
What
it's
is it?
fine as long
Stable
as we
release.
declare experiment. It's nice if people can take that out easily, right? Even if it's not guaranteed to work.
Yeah, makes sense. Maybe just say it's initial support. Okay. And then for the other artifacts, yes, I don't know, agent, Imocore, etc. They all are now being released with the RISC-V version.
Nice.
I
Okay.
guess next step is building S390X. I mean, we just add another one to the list.
Send them into Mauro's house.
Yeah.
How much would it cost?
If you're gonna pay the power bill, I'm happy to have it here. No worry.
You're asking too much, man. And first, it's Aka's graphics card we have to get. So
yeah, that's
just
true.
queue. Wait at the queue, right? All right. Hadron QA, it's there forever. Are we QAing?
Yeah.
What's left? I mean, Raspberry Pi doesn't work, so I guess he's waiting for at least this one. Yeah, okay, I'll leave it there. At least for Raspberry Pi, and then we discuss again. Support NVIDIA Thor with Kairos and Ubuntu. Who is doing what here?
That's an ongoing task. I did some patches for supporting Ubuntu plus NVIDIA stuff on init directly, so you can build it like any other thing,
Device.
but just passing the model. I'm not sure if those are merged or not. But the idea here is to support Hadron in there, which will take a bit more of time. And to be honest, I'm not sure how in the list of priorities currently is. I basically just ignore it for now.
Okay. Can move it back then. Let me move it back so we have a clear.
There's gonna be a
view.
long term thing.
Yeah. Feel free to pull it in whenever you're taking that again. Okay. So these are really in progress. This is really under review, and let me take us to the roadmap quickly, just to remember where we stand, what we are working on, and what the focus should be. In order or maybe randomly, I'm not sure. Yeah, okay, let's do them in order. So this one was about disks and being able to select different disks. There were ideas around, like let them define a script, like a black box to give you back the device. We already have a way to define partitions. I pasted something that, looking this morning, the only problem is that it doesn't work with net booting because these are not being picked up. It sounds to me like a different bug. Yeah, the config URL, for which actually we have another open ticket, this one. So I think that's related. But there is a workaround. So there is a config YAML which would work if you did a Kairos agent manual install with it. You can define your partitions. So I'm not sure at this point if we want to, I don't know, implement more flexibility, allow people to use more things, to do more things, or just fix the config URL bug. I don't see many people reporting here, like saying, hey, I need this, I need that. I don't want us to implement things and workarounds on guesswork. You see, this was merged, this was merged, this was merged. In my opinion, if there is a way to do something, and that way is not hackish, I'd say it's implemented.
Didn't we agree last time to just allow passing like a script, semicolon / and put the burden of this, put it on the consumer. So if you want to have your own thing for your this because it's very special and you want to change it over time because it may change, you just use the script part and forget about anything.
Yeah, I remember we discussed that as an option. I don't remember if we all agreed that this is the way to go. So this is from 2023.
Yeah, no, but I think the last time we agreed on that, we said, oh, let's make our own, like our generic one is the auto selector, which picks a script that picks I think we currently pick the biggest disk in the system, and then so people can just ship their own and do like the plugins. It just checks the system. Is there any like providers? Is there any provider for this disk stuff? Yes, I use it. No, I don't, and that's it.
So you mean something like what is the block? Let me see what the block looks like. So layout. Why is it there?
I do
Under
install dot disk. No, not in
yeah,
there. Like we have the install disk, I think, for that. So instead
something
of
like
putting
that.
dev SDA or dev whatever, just put script. No, maybe not even that.
Party.
Maybe just using the same.
Yeah, so instead of a disk, yeah, I mean that's kind of a strange
Yeah,
logic.
instead
Either
of
you point it to a disk, you point to a script.
well, we can add that script colon / to make sure that we maintain compatibility with older stuff, and then we
Yeah,
just
but that
introduce
might
that
not.
extra.
Yeah, this may not return a disk device only. So because some of the requests said, okay, I want to put cost state in one disk and cost persistent on another disk, completely different device. So what the script has to actually
But
do.
that's a different thing. This is about choosing a disk, or is it about choosing multiple targets? I don't think we should allow putting multiple disks. It's just such a mess. If we
There
have to
was a
maintain
request
it,
for
that
that.
it's prone to errors. It's just a fucking mess.
But we select by
We're
label. I
basically
don't see why it's a problem.
but we're basically redoing Parted here with all the things that we need to support and maintain and allow, and now 2 disk, and next one will be 3 disk, and then 4. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
but if we
think it's
select by
just
label and we let the user do whatever they want in a script, as long as they label the partitions or the disks properly, we can pick them up by label. So we shouldn't even care
yeah. We
where they
always use
are,
by
right?
label, but is our tooling ready for finding labels in different disks? Because the assumption when creating it now is that if you pick, I don't know, cost state, you may, it's just expecting to be in one disk.
Does it? No idea. If you say so, I believe you,
Yeah, me neither. No, I have no idea.
but that's a way to support it. We say, okay, somehow put labels on things, and then we just make
But
sure all our tooling relies on the labels and doesn't assume any.
isn't this what the no format and stuff like that
Yeah,
is for?
yeah. Supposedly, yeah,
And
that's how I did it
is it
here.
possible to do that?
Supposedly,
Because maybe it's possible to do that already.
but that's only doing on one device. I don't think we ever tried with multiple devices.
Well, you can just do 2 layout. One layout, then another layout, and then another layout. No?
Maybe, but I
The
don't think
blocks are
anybody tried that.
repeatable.
Yeah, I don't think we tried that.
Okay. I think it should be possible. I think.
Okay, if it
Already.
is
But
possible, but we
are
can
we
check.
sure this is about this? Because that's another problem. Because sometimes they say this and then they mean another thing. They mean selecting 2
Yeah,
different disks.
I tried to
So is
collect
this
all of
about the
them.
selection of the disk or about really putting different partitions in different disks?
It's all of them. This is what I tried to do here. I tried to collect all the requests that came in case we could find one solution for all of them. That's why I brought this up. So maybe this solves it for everybody. Create a script, label things, and yeah, I mean, Kairos Agent will pick it up. If we do this, then it probably covers everything. I mean, not in the best way. Maybe people will say, "Oh, I don't want to write a script. Can you just do it with one key?" No, no, we don't do it. If you want to do crazy stuff, implement a script, right? That's what I'm saying. So this could be a black
But
box. Yeah.
I mean it because it's a different approach on those 2 cases, because one is the layout plugin. If we are gonna say, okay, if you want to do weird stuff with your disk, just use the layout plugin, then we can extend the layout plugin to accept that. It's, I'm gonna say, easier, I would say, to expand it. If it's about the selecting of the disk, of the generic disk, which affects agent, we just need to change it in the agent itself. Right? Because when you do install .disk, that is the agent itself, the one that does all the stuff. If you do no format, then it's whatever. We don't care. It could be a script that you run yourself. It could be the layout plugin. It could be a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, you can already define another disk. So the requests that are not covered yet is this one, be able to specify multiple installation target disks. So what I was mentioning, different disks for different partitions.
Mm-hmm.
LVM.
So then that's layout.
Yeah, for which we already had an example with, I'm not sure if it's this one. No, it's, yeah, usually we point people to the infrastructure as code we have where we did that for our CI cluster where we had LVM. There's no example, I think.
Mm.
Then there is pick device by ID, which is probably fixed already. So maybe the only one not covered is the multiple disks. What's the original report
so
they're asking for?
That's, I guess that's layout.
Then this.
Then yeah.
This was even crazier. So we wanted the list.
Yeah,
First match wins.
I mean, come on. Come on. That's the one that we need to do the script. Like, don't put that shit on us. Device list, and then we just randomly select one, or
yeah, that's calling for a script. So if we had a script, it would cover even this crazy situation, right? So do we all agree on a script that spits out labels, like labels things, and we look for labels, or just outputs a disk device?
I think that the disk selection, like for install.disk stuff, so generic, no weird thing. I just don't know which disks my system has, so I cannot put in advance like dev SDA and dev SDB. Mm-hmm. That should support the script stuff, but in a really simple way, like we
so
said,
just output the device.
Yeah, so you just put that, and then whatever your script does, it does. We don't care. It's your responsibility. So that we can expand that easily. And then the other one, the partitions in different disks, that has to go to the layout plugin and has to be more complex, I would say.
To allow users to select a device which they may not know beforehand, we'll implement this. The script is expected to output a device path, which will be used exactly as installed disk was used up to now.
Mm-hmm.
To allow users to yeah, that will be tricky now. Used to install to multiple disks. We will just let them. Where's the example? Define multiple layouts here.
Yeah, I guess so.
Fit the
In fact, maybe that's already possible. We don't know. Would be cool.
Labeling the various partitions, disks, because there was a request to put the label on the disk itself with no partition table. I think that's also something people can do.
Oh yeah.
Disks. And Kairos Agent picks them up. Obviously now you have the combination of the two. So here in device, what if they want a script?
Well, they can put a script. That's like the main disk. The layout for different disks and things like that should be used only with no format. Like you want some specific thing, well, we allow you. Just use no format and you're on your own, right? It may be that the disk is already pre-format, for example, right? You pre-format it outside,
Yeah.
and then just ship with it. And on first boot, you want it to be used with no formatting. In that case, you still need to select the disk, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know.
You just
It's
don't use
I mean,
layout
a little bit
plugin. It's just too
complicated
many things,
already.
I think.
Yeah, too complicated. So this is a different place where you can put a script. You also have this place where you can put a script. You can repeat the scripts multiple times, but the scripts are always dummy. They spit out the device. The alternative is to just say, I'll run the script and I'll do nothing else for you. You create the partitions. You figure out what the disk is. If you define a script, I don't do anything. It's like no format for me. If you define a script, I'm expecting to find labeled partitions or disks. And I kind of prefer that because there are no multiple places to put things. Either you go the script way manually or you do what you could already do, which is this. I don't know. Guys, any ideas? Or I can just record it here and the implementer decides. Your alternative is to allow the user to specify a script, but that script is not just outputting a device, but rather prepares the disks and partitions and labels them properly. From there on, the Kairos agent expects properly labeled things and does nothing more.
I wonder if that might work in case, I don't know, if somebody expect, I don't know, encrypted partitions. But yeah, it should.
Oh, come on. Encrypted partitions, selection of disk across different things. It's just too much.
Yeah, no, I know, but I'm trying to guard, what we are deciding here from other new, requests and see if it's flexible enough.
But the encryption stuff, it just happens later, right? This is selection. This is before installing. This is preparation of the disk. It should not matter at all, because once you reach the encryption part, you have already checked that you have all your partitions ready and you have located them all and so on.
Right. So you should be able to mount.
We don't care how.
Label.
Yeah. Exactly. So before starting the installation, all the partitions should be already located. We don't care where on the disk they are because we refer to them by dev disk by label. So they can be on a USB. They can be on whatever. We don't care. So yeah, it should support that for sure.
All right. Is that it? Did we lose our MC?
I think we lose everybody.
I think we lost Dimitris.
Yeah, looks like it.
Yeah.
We should mention that we're going to be in Bologna. If anyone wants to come talk to us, the whole team is going to be there. We will have one session. Yeah, so it's a great opportunity to talk about immutable systems, and we would love to see you there. It's May 18th and 19th or something like that. Yeah. cloudnativedaysitaly.org. I I don't see Dimitri's coming back. Did we anything else that we need
I
to?
see him muted. But
Yeah. Maybe someone was at the door or something.
Yeah, no, it was what is this? Okay, loo time. Go to the loo. Sorry, guys. Morning coffee. Okay, so I leave it as is with the description. So I mean, we can decide at implementation time. It maybe proves to be too complicated, one of the two, and we decide the other way. Since nobody has a strong opinion on this yet, I will just leave it as is. Just recorded what we discussed, unless I missed something while I was gone.
Sounds good.
We're good.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, and that was the first ticket. We're running out of time. Uh, let me see what we can plan. I just wanted to say that this is probably done already. Migrate OS Builder functionalities to Kairos Operator. The OS Builder is now archived. I moved all the tickets to the operator. So I don't think we need this anymore. These are mentioned here, but these are already part of the release. So I think I can just close this. We have the other tickets for what's remaining. So I'm closing this ticket. The blog post on Hadron, is this done? CNCF? I think it's done, no?
Which
Mauro?
one?
Blog post on Hadron, CNCF.
No, this hasn't happened yet, but I still need to figure out how we do it. Yeah. I mean, we have the internal blog post, but we would like to have one at the CNCF, mainly because so Hadron is a sub project within the Kairos ecosystem. So technically, we don't need to do the whole process of donation anymore. But at the same time, there are still open questions on how logos and all of the legal stuff. So it hasn't been cleared out. I wouldn't say it should block for one, to be honest, but
yeah,
it's
okay,
there.
we'll keep that in mind. Yeah, all right. So, but
Yeah.
I'll leave this open to remember to discuss it again. Security audit, I don't think we're doing this anymore. We asked, they said they can audit binaries and code and things like that, but not full operating systems, right?
Indeed.
So the rest is just ideas on how to scan code. I don't think we need this, right?
I would say it's not needed,
Original
indeed.
idea to get an audit is not going to happen. Closing this. All right, closing. Oopsie, oh, my screen blacked out. Okay, it's back. Poof, 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 poof. Blog post. Config URL. This was a complicated bug. We can maybe pick it up again, but we discussed already. Netbook artifacts on CRD. That's one of the operator tickets we can pick up. I'd like us to discuss it after Tore talks about the new tool, which could happen now if we want to extend this a bit, just to let people know what's cooking. So I see operator tickets we can pick. For this one I wanted to discuss quickly with you. So if you recall, in the operator, there is a labeler thingy. It comes up when you deploy the operator, finds the Kairos release file on the node, and then labels the node as a Kairos one. That was in case someone had a hybrid cluster and they wanted to run things only on Kairos nodes, like upgrades and all. Then someone said something I didn't think about when I implemented that if I have, for example, a Talos, I think he says Talos node, it's in a comment down here, ETC Kairos release doesn't exist, and because of the way the code works, it tries to create it. It's a volume mount. That's how Kubernetes works. If it's not there, it tries to create it, but it's a read-only file system, so the pod is never scheduled. And then we discussed various other ideas, like the there was another ticket actually linked to do that outside the Kubernetes somehow, and in the provider and whatnot. And this morning it just hit me that maybe the solution is very simple. So instead of mounting etc Kairos release, we mount the whole etc and we fail gracefully and say, oh, I don't see no Kairos release there, so this is not a Kairos node, I'm skipping. So the pod, the labeler pod can be scheduled on anything, so doesn't matter. So I think that's the easiest solution, and actually we can even extend it, and instead of just putting um, the label, just the one label we have, we can even put information like this, which was also requested. And Mauro also mentioned that we need to be aware of the life cycle, like upgrades and all.
Yeah.
So how do you keep track and update them? I think this is also possible if we change from a job. Right now it's a job with a node selector, so we spin up a job per node, so it runs once on every node. If we change to something like a daemon set that constantly runs on nodes, it can keep track of that and say, oh, I see that this node, for example, has been upgraded. The information on Kairos list doesn't match anymore the labels, and updates that. So, or something like that. Or we spin up a job again after an upgrade somehow. That's left to be figured out. So it's also here. These are two tickets. One is this, the other one is this. I think I put my comment on this one. Yeah, here. So it was only I only put this there this morning, so I'll give you time to think about it. But I think it has an easy solution, and maybe we can conclude this quicker than we thought. So it's two tickets on this one. It's this one, the reliable one, then this one. Ah, no, the other one is not here. Fixed labeler, it's not in this list. Operator work then. Yeah, put another comment on this ticket. I'll also give you time to reply, and we don't have enough time here to discuss it. Where is my comment? Ah, there it is. It's a rather big one. I think I mentioned it before that what we were suggesting feels a little bit like a package manager, but also I put another suggestion down here in regards to the pipeline we build, like the dependency tree. I wouldn't like it to be hidden. So the action, the steps we take, I didn't want them to be hidden in the binaries themselves, because nobody can inspect that and be able to tell what is going to happen. So instead of this, I'm suggesting that the various, let's call them providers, should just write down a cloud config. Maybe we introduce these new hooks and they're part of the config. So when the agent has to call out to something, that something is not decided by path convention and say, oh, I'm going to look in this directory where we put binaries and I'm going to call them all with an event and let them do whatever they want. It will be the other way around. So when those things are installed, they just write down a cloud config and they say, when you call me, I'm going to do this, this, and that. And from that, we can construct the final list of actions in the right order after we calculate, the tree and dependencies and whatever. So the user can actually tell, we already have a command to spit out the final config, right? So we can actually tell exactly what is going to happen on first boot or on recovery or whatever hook we implement in the providers.
That's interesting. And I'm thinking, will the providers themselves signal which dependencies they have, or are you thinking there's a central place where we define that?
Yeah, so my idea, the way I was thinking is that if they're looking, we want these requirements, right? Install things. So a provider would install things, binaries, systemd services, whatever. They have dependencies on other things.
Yeah.
We should avoid installing the same thing twice. So if I require HVPN, for example, twice, it should only be installed once. And then I need an order of things like a dependency tree. And all of these are already solved by all package managers out there, right?
Yeah.
So if the provider is simply a package that gets installed and some script that gets run at installation time, I mean, you get that with packages, right? Then this is simply part of the package. It defines that as a package. I'm not suggesting any package manager here. I'm saying in a package manager, you do define your dependencies. You do write your files like, a cloud config. So it pretty much looks like a package manager, which Luet is, for example, right? It already runs scripts, installs files. I'm just saying that this is very much like a package manager.
Yeah.
I don't care if we do it like binaries or what. The part I would prefer to see is that the final thing, the pipeline that runs on each event, is recorded down in a way that you can actually calculate it and print it and say, this is what is going to happen. Instead of being hidden inside the binary. Nobody knows. They have to look at the code and somehow mentally construct the tree and say, so when I'm doing a recovery, for example, all these things are going to happen. I think it's impossible if we introduce multiple providers. With one provider, it's fine. It's sequential, right? It's serial.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I wonder also if we're making this too big. Like, are we ever gonna have more than two providers? But I agree with you that it would be nice to do it this way.
I'm just thinking that the idea with here was to avoid complexity and leave that to the provider plugins. And it sounds to me like we're trying to get more complexity in there.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Depends on the implementation. So let's take the existing provider. The existing provider would be just some files installed. It could even be a bundle, right? And those files could write down and say, on first boot, do this. On installation, do that. So these hooks already exist. These are called events. This is what the agent, the hooks in the agent that call out the provider. There are specific points in time in which the agent calls out the providers with an event string. What I'm suggesting is that this event string becomes a first-class citizen in the config, and whoever wants to be called has to write it down here. Of course, like I'm saying here, you could have a provider that writes itself down on everything and say, yeah, always call me and I'll decide what I do. And then you get the same situation. But yeah, that's up to us to not do, right? So you have to explicitly say, on the first boot, I'm going to install K3s, for example. And the user sees that. You see that in the config. You can actually comment it out and skip it if there is a bug with that. Or even replace it with a fixed script. It's more flexible and I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's nicer what we thought before, that we don't care about what the provider does. It's just the responsibility of the provider. So people can just write their own providers and do whatever they want. We don't care.
Oh, they can still do that. They just have to write it down. They write a provider that says, call me like this on this hook. That's what changes. They state it and they require it through a file. So instead of the agent calling them all and letting them decide if they have to do something or not, you tell the providers, if you want to do something, write it down as a cloud init, say this event. So I'm calling that a hook, but that's the event, right? So say, in this event, call me. So instead of calling them all the time and letting them decide, you ask them to write down when they want to be called, and you use this list of files, like you construct the dependency, you merge all the configs, right? And you say, oh, this provider wants to be called on first boot, I'm going to call it. But by doing this, you can also inspect what's happening and debug, for example, and figure out, oh, why on earth is K0s there with K3s right next to each other, right? It should never happen. And it's easier to inspect why things have been called, who wrote what, who required what. I'm just saying, I don't want you to be forced to think about it now. I'm just saying I put a suggestion there. Have a look. please comment, and yeah, maybe that's another way to go, because this ticket wasn't moving, I'm afraid, and I wanted to add one more idea there. So yeah,
That's my main issue. If it's not moving when we are trying to make it more simpler, if we now make it, complexer, is it gonna move at any point?
I felt that it's not moving because it wasn't complete. There were some open questions, like how do you solve the problem that you don't install it twice? It's binary, it doesn't know there is another binary that does something, right?
For
So
me, it's more about what's triggering the change right now. So if we continue the way we're doing today, probably Kairos provider will keep doing everything inside, right? It came more from the copy provider side to say, okay, now I want to have copy and I want to have Kairos provider at the same time, if I understood correctly. But maybe that means I don't need HVPN and I don't need that. Yeah, I wonder if we first should look at which are the basic steps, which are really the providers that we need to install together, and start deciding from there. But it's tricky because at the end of the day, I think it would be, there's no reason to have HVPN in a node if someone will not use it at all, right? So I still think it's healthy to move towards this direction.
but HVPN is a standalone thing in our provider, by the way. I had a look. It's not like you can say, okay, put HVPN there, and then the provider just picks it up. So when you say peer-to-peer and auto coordination and whatever other options we have, it's using the ledger itself to write down the roles and whatever. So it's like very integrated in our provider. You can't.
Indeed. But that's what I mean. Like that somehow we should be able to tell, I want to use K3S or K0S, but I don't want to use all the HPPN plus ledger part. At the end of the day, the smaller the surface, the better, right? So, and that we cannot do today. I think those two things, this and the copy, are what should drive, in my opinion, this change. Yeah.
But all you're saving is not having the HVPN binary in place. Otherwise, the binary may be there, but it's not used. It's not setting up any network. So the only thing you save, you reduce the surface by simply not having the HVPN binary, but it's not running. So if you don't use it through the config, it's not running at all. So you just save some space and the possibility of someone somehow using the HVPN binary to hack into a box or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, but
but why will you have it from the start? It's like, if we could do that for everything, right? Why don't we ship K0S with K3S at the same time? I mean, you just got the binary in there. It's about separating of consoles. You want HVPN, you got HVPN. You want K3S, you want K3S. So anything on HVPN doesn't have to affect K3S and the other way around.
We already have the installation hook, what do we call it? Bootstrap event? No, not the Bootstrap. The new one we introduced recently, the installation.
Yeah, we got everything now in there. The pieces
so you can already skip HVPN, right? You can.
Yeah. Well, you can. It's not implemented in the provider.
Yeah, but you can say, oh, I don't see peer-to-peer configuration in your config. I'm not going to install HVPN. You have the config at that point.
That would be nice. Yeah. Or at least tell you why do you have VPN configuration if you didn't install one. Yeah.
Actually, you don't have that. You don't know what config you'll get at runtime. So at build time, you don't know what the config will look like. So you don't know if HVPN is going to be used.
No, yeah. But that's build time, right? I mean, you can add K3S and then never use or start K3S. You just ship it with it.
Yeah, but that's easier to implement. So you can simply say at installation time, somehow pass the information through that event that you don't want HVPN. Or you have to explicitly say, hey, I want HVPN. And we document that, and it's almost there. That's what I'm saying. We don't need any complicated logic. We just simply skip things in the providers by passing some options. There's no strong request. I mean, you see, it's all us discussing here. Nobody really came and said, "Oh, I need to do that." That's impossible. So it's a very big ticket with lots of discussions and complex implementation, but no actual request. That's a smell to me.
Yeah.
Leave it there. Maybe William has more to say when he comes back with copy requests and all. So maybe William can't do something because copy, I will
It
even
was
skip it
mainly
from the release.
related to how he was developing it, right? Like he saw some functionality that actually belonged in the provider, the existing provider. I think that was. But yeah, let's check with him for sure.
All right. The problem is that we are over time and we didn't pull enough things in. So let me ask you guys, what are you currently working on? Is it enough? Like, this sounded like a complex thing to do, but not sure how many days it's gonna take. We moved back some things like NVIDIA Thor support, which is ongoing, but we don't know if it's a priority or not. So what I can do, and we have some which we didn't pick at all last week.
Yeah.
So should I just leave it open, but we all agree that we focus on these tickets and we pull from this list? I mean, they're not prioritized in any way. All of them look equal currently. So how about we don't pull in anything? We finish what we do, and we either pick from things we already worked on last week and finish them, or we pick from this list.
Yeah, makes sense. I think I'm gonna be. I have 2 tickets there. Plus, I have to start working now on the presentation for Bologna. So I see myself a bit busy.
All right. And Ettore, since we are over time, I don't think we have enough time in this call for you to present what you had, but maybe we can do it in a separate one this week sometime.
Yeah. Or also next planning. I mean, it's the same. So when there is William, because I think also William will have a lot of questions.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah.
Sounds good. All right, guys. Then, yeah, we didn't have time to go through the tickets through bugs. If you see something that is very urgent, just pull it in to do. Okay.
Yeah.
See you.
Okay.
Awesome. Have a great day, guys. Ciao.
Bye bye.